I hope it's good for you too. We'll find out at the end. But I enjoyed this prompt. I got this from an event. It asked me to write a piece on sensibility. And I don't really know what that word means. Does anybody know? Like, what does that mean? Any ideas? That's okay. I have the definition.
Yeah, perfect.
The ability to appreciate and respond to complex emotional or aesthetic influences. A person's delicate sensitivity that makes them readily offended, shocked, or overwhelmed. Which was a really apt description of me, I think, generally. So this was actually a really nice prompt for me. So I wrote a piece called Skin Like Mine, and it's a bit of a story, and I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. I bite my fingernails because my heart beats up 2 billion times a lifetime, and I just want something to do with my hands that doesn't feel like it's burning the forests down. I shave my head every 3 months to remind myself it comes and goes, and I wake up 3 minutes before my alarm each morning, and I don't feel good. And when there's no alarm for some reason, I wake up at 4 because my heart beats a lifetime every minute and my mind builds a card house every night. I'm looking every moment, a moment left to just breathe. And the breathing is less important than the just is to me. I went to this concert last week with my roommates, who are always half looking for reasons to spend time together and half trying to avoid them. We live in 3 separate silos, each with our own candle to see us through, our own piece of light, our own little bit of warmth. We shield our candles from bad weather, sneezing dogs, and any particularly fiendish or excitable figure who might take some joy in blowing out our candles. This does happen, but I think very often it is without joy. We all know these people, or at least we have been told many stories about them. I live with my landlord, who reminds me often that we don't need each other and that he'd sell the ground under my feet soon enough. But I just love him anyway, because at least he is honest half the time and he can sit quietly. But I wouldn't ask him to hold my candle for me. He might start commenting on its lopsidedness and how it hadn't really been maintained properly. And he might show me to a candle store where I might buy a less smelly candle, or a candle that might last longer. Hell, he'd buy it for me, even though I like how my candle smells and I do not need another one. My other roommate is sweet, almost too sweet, and his candle is fat and deep, and you can't really see the flame, but you can tell it's there because of all the light. It's got this green tint, or like a light that has got the flu, or like a light that is perpetually ratcheting up the ramp on some grand roller coaster, saying things like, oh gosh, or oh man, or are you sure this thing is safe? My heart beats a lifetime every sunrise and every sunset beats to death. So much I can feel it in the morning. Something having splattered on the cage, some scabs in the wastebasket, some bloody knuckles on the wood, some splinters in my veins. My heart beats a lifetime every day, and I can barely see the nose on my face. We took our candles to a concert once. We'd taken them to a few. We liked taking them to mosh pits. We'd toss our candles in with the rest, feel the fire grow larger as each participant tossed his, and there was only his, candles in the middle, loud, clumsy weight-throwing men, ass-slapping, hand-to-neck clasping men, wanting to touch, to let go, to fall down and watch the mob pick you up off the floor before you are trampled. A great mosh pit is a synergistic, self-affirming entity, a generous bunch, a transformation of audibility into bone, flesh, ripped shirts, scuffed shoes, and it can get hot, but there is always something that stops your fall, and you can be the thing that moves in the dark. It looked like stars in a microwave oven, all the crashing and jostling of the candles and whatnot. I remember times I had seen the singer spit into crowds and say things like he couldn't wait for his mother to die so he could kill himself, and my candle would appear in my hands and would flicker in the still air there, like a great wind had blown, but only for a moment, and everyone else laughed and cheered, but I think like many things it was to keep from feeling sad. We went another time to see the band, having been told that this was their last show, and we go, so we gather on a simmering summer night, and I like the smoke from my candle, so I go outside to smoke it. And the dog is there, and he runs me around, but I make sure to stay away from him when he sneezes. My buddies are all inside, and they smile and laugh, and they like the fire from their candles instead, so they spend some time drinking it. So I drive, and when we get there, we find out the band is playing their last show ever. The drummer will be moving on, so it goes. But when they begin, the band has already forgotten us, and they never warm us up. They just shout at us, and they look at one another preciously, so the mosh pit can't really get going, and there are a couple discouraging old ladies around too, which does not help. We were always kind of all or nothing about it, and we didn't want to burn the place down by ourselves, so we stood just outside to die at violence, discomfited. The front man never spits into the audience, and he never takes his shirt off, though somewhere there's a guy who shouts, "Show us your dick!" in desperation, and everyone's candles are all kind of like, meh. This may feel kind of out of place, but I know a sweet kid who wanted only to be a teacher for young kids, and he died from lung cancer last week, and I don't think he ever smoked a cigarette in his life. And this girl I meet tells me her parents both died of cancer in the same year when she was 28 years old. And a friend went back to jail last night, and he deserved it, I guess you could say, but also he didn't. And then my roommate in the car says he has cancer too, but I'm not sure what to believe because remember, he's only honest half the time. And then he asks for me for a cigarette and tells me all he wants is $1 million. And now I'm confused. And I hear the boys next to me chittering, wanting so badly to be punched in the face, touched like someone meant it, wanting to punish and be punished, and pushed around so they can push back, because otherwise all we have are bumpers and yellow lights and soft sheets, and how the wrong side always has more yard signs and sidewalks and people who call the police on kids. And I look at my candle and I see a fuse on the ground, and everyone is just stepping on it. It's all covered in beer and half-crushed cans and cups beginning to splinter into the dim, dusty dark, and I hear the singer, and he's singing about the freedom of the 9-to-5 job. He says, "You've been so many places, but you haven't done a thing." We are far older than we should be, I guess, in this blazing summer on the side of the road, wondering what has happened here, and all the love I've ever felt and never felt, I could carry it, instead of it being now where it's everything and nothing and still everything. I kind of felt like a fraud there with my little candle. But I had my boots on, and I felt virile and alive. And my buddy, without even turning to me, puts his hand on my shoulder and pushes. That's